On a Tuesday evening, the subway train was packed beyond capacity. Every aisle was blocked, and 3 hands clung to each handrail. Passengers were pressed together like damp newspapers, faces buried in phones, ignoring the crush. Nobody looked up as the city blurred past the windows. Marcus sat by the window, a crumpled envelope resting on his knee. He had opened it 3 hours earlier, a rejection from the architecture program he'd spent 2 years pursuing. His face held a quiet devastation that made strangers hesitate to ask about the empty seat beside him. All the other seats were taken, bodies swaying with the train's motion. Yet that one seat remained vacant, a silent island in a sea of commuters. People glanced at it, then at Marcus, and quickly looked away uncomfortable. The envelope on his knee seemed to explain everything. The train pulled away from Clark Street, and Marcus stared out the window at the blur of city lights. The crumpled rejection envelope felt lighter in his pocket, though the words hadn't changed. For the first time all day, the loneliness felt less like a weight. He watched the city stream past, each light a story he'd never know. His fingers traced the torn edge of the envelope. The rejection was real, but so was the moment he gave away his seat. In that small act, the bitterness began to dissolve into something unexpected. Hope for a stranger. He looked at his reflection in the dark window, the loneliness still there, but somehow softer. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold as the train raced through the night. Marcus realized that his empty seat had carried her nearer to her dream, and somehow, that was enough. The closed door still stood, but he had opened one for her. 3 hours before the train, Marcus sat alone in the warehouse break room. The letter from the architecture program lay unopened on the table, its weight pressing into his chest like a stone. He already knew what it would say. He tore it open, read the first line, and felt the floor drop. 2 years of early mornings, sketches, and sacrifice dismissed in a single thin paragraph. The disappointment landed like a physical blow, the architecture dream vanishing in stale break room air. He sat motionless, the rejection letter crumpled in his fist as the warehouse hummed around him. When the break ended, he clocked out and the disappointment trailed him onto the train, a shadow he carried into the evening commute, not yet knowing a simple act of kindness would shift its gravity. Alone in the crowded train, Marcus stares out the window. The city's neon blurs against the evening dark. No one meets his eyes. The crumpled rejection in his pocket feels lighter now, but the journey home still stretches long and silent. He replays her grateful words in his mind, the same hope he'd once held. The shared dream now rests with her, and his own path seems washed in the glow of passing street lamps. Sadness lingers, but something has shifted. The train rattles on. For a moment, Marcus closes his eyes and lets the motion soothe him. He won't stop reaching for architecture. Perhaps there's another door, another way. Tonight, he allows himself that tiny, stubborn ember of determination. She burst onto the platform at Clark Street Station, dodging the crowd as her sneakers slapped against the concrete. The clock on her phone showed just 2 minutes left, and she ran faster, her bag bouncing against her hip. Every second felt like a closing door. She weaved through the station's upper level, pushing past commuters with hurried apologies. Her lungs burned. Outside, the city was a blur of noise and traffic. She reached the glass building with seconds to spare, pressing a hand to the door. For a moment, she paused, remembering the stranger on the train who believed she could make it. Then she straightened her jacket, took a deep breath, and walked inside with determination. She burst from the train doors into the crowded station. Her phone timer shows 2 minutes left. People ignore her desperate dodging as she pushes past. The subway car behind her fills with commuters who saw her plea but did nothing. She races up the stairs, glancing at her phone. Only a minute left, time pressure squeezing her chest. Sprinting through the street, she ignores pedestrians who ignore her urgency. Desperation fueling every stride. Her lungs burn, but the scholarship interview is just blocks away. She spots the glass doors of the architecture firm beginning to close. Lunging forward, she grabs the handle, pleading for them to wait. The receptionist hesitates, then nods, holding the door. She rushes inside, breathless, just as her phone timer hits 0. The interview panel is waiting. The young woman burst into the interview hall, breathless. She remembered the stranger on the crowded train who stood without a word, offering his seat. His selfless sacrifice was a lifeline. Now, his quiet kindness fueled her confidence as she faced the panel. She would not let him down. During the interview, she spoke about light in space with rare fire. She told them about the stranger's sacrifice, the seat he gave up. The panel leaned in. She poured everything into her words. A simple kindness had sparked fierce determination. Marcus stepped off the train, his footsteps lighter. He pulled out the crumpled rejection, smoothing it with his thumb. It was not an end. He would find another path into architecture. Tonight, he would sketch again, his hand steadied by a stranger's gratitude. His small sacrifice had given him something unexpected. Purpose. He stands motionless in the aisle, the empty seat now a monument. Her words spiral in his mind, the same scholarship, the same long nights. They were strangers. Yet they shared the same quiet dream. A revelation settles in. They were both reaching for the same star, and somehow his sacrifice lit her path. Her whispered thanks lingers in the stale air, a slender lifeline. In her rush to the interview, she touched his despair without knowing it. He realizes maybe his purpose wasn't to claim that door, but to hold it open. He straightens his shoulders as the train slows for his stop. Today, he'd been a bridge for another's hope. Tomorrow, he'll start rebuilding his own, not with a scholarship, but with the same stubborn fire that kept him sketching at midnight. The envelope in his pocket was a stone. Her panic mirrored the desperation he'd felt hours earlier. Bitterness whispered that he owed the world nothing. Yet, watching her, something inside him shifted. Recognizing the edge of despair he knew too well. He could have looked away as others had. Instead, he chose a different answer. The smile he gave was not born of joy, but of intentional compassion. "Then go get it," he said, pushing her toward the door he couldn't open. As the train rumbled onward, the stone in his pocket felt unexpectedly lighter. Encouraging her hadn't altered his rejection, but it had transformed him. and offering the gift he himself needed. He uncovered a quiet inner strength he never knew existed. Marcus steps off the train into the evening air, feeling a strange lightness. The crumpled envelope in his pocket no longer defines his worth. His simple act of giving up a seat has somehow lightened his own burden. He watches the train disappear, carrying the memory of the woman's grateful eyes. In a moment of crisis, a stranger believed in her. His selfless act gave her hope when she needed it most. She steps into the interview with newfound confidence, ready to fight for her dream. She recalls the train, the crowded car, and the man who gave up his seat. That memory fuels her. Marcus walks home under the city lights, an unfamiliar sense of hope stirring within. He had given what little he had, and in doing so, discovered that selflessness can create unexpected ripples, transforming both giver and receiver. The weight of rejection has lifted, replaced by the lightness of knowing his small act mattered.